Hello and welcome to Healthy U. I'm your host, Kathy Salatino. Thank you so much for joining us today. So today's show, we're kind of in this process of really helping you understand the simplicity of creating a healthier you. In our last episode, we talked about cleaning up your environment and really doing some simple practices to also clean up some healthy habits. We are going to talk about one of those habits today. And this habit is so important that scientists have actually proven that you can live longer. This habit helps enhance memory, makes you more creative. It keeps you slim, lowers your food cravings, protects you from cancer and dementia, wards off colds and flu, lowers risk of heart attack, stroke, and not to mention diabetes. Imagine if you heard one of those pharmaceutical commercials that really plugged those benefits. I bet you'd be dying to get that pill. So when we come back, we'll talk about what that magic pill really is. Don't go away.
Hello, Krista Jordana from the Ryan Ferns Healthplex. I've been recently talking to some people and they've been talking about back pain. One of the simple fixes you can do is work on doing a plank and have the balance between your core, your abs, and your back to alleviate that pain. I'd like to show you the first version on the floor. So hands shoulder width apart, elbows nice and straight, step back. Avoid sinking those hips. I want you to stay tight, keep your butt squeezed, abs engaged, and just hold as long as you can. Try to build up to doing 2 minutes. You may start at 5 seconds or 10 seconds, add as you go. Another variation is elevating yourself up on something, whether you're at home, whether you're at the office. Have the same positioning with your hands being shoulder width, arms nice and straight. Squeeze your body tight, avoid that hip sag, and stay strong and breathe and enjoy however long you can hold it.
Welcome back. Okay, so before we went to break, I talked about that magic pill that can really help you create such a healthier life for you. All of the things that we talk about here on Healthy You can help you be more happy. It can help you feel more vital in your life, lose weight, have less cravings, lower your risk for chronic disease. What's the magic pill? Sleep. A good night's sleep is something that is so important, and we often overlook it. You know, we always say we're tired and we miss it, yet we put off that simple practice of going to bed at a specific time each night. And scientists have actually shown in over 17,000 studies of really meticulously reviewed science where we now know that we absolutely need that minimum requirement of at least 7 hours of sleep. The ideal, 7 to 9 hours. And when working with clients, you know, helping them create a healthier lifestyle, you know, we often focus just on the diet and the delicious foods that we can eat. But we really need to scale back and look at what it takes to truly optimize our lives. So the habit of going to sleep, you know, think about it, we resist it from when we're kids on through life. And in today's culture, we're so inundated with technology all the time. We're overstimulated, we're busy. In fact, the number one thing that I hear from clients is they just don't have enough hours in the day. And so we tend to take the thing that we feel like we can shortcut because we're all about multitasking. We're all about getting more done in our day. And we shortcut the most important fundamental of good health, a good night's sleep. So what we know is that when we shortcut that, it has a ripple effect throughout our overall health. You know, the evidence is really, really compelling about this. There's a great book that just came out called Why We Sleep, and I would encourage you to unpack some of the science around that. One of the things that's really important is not just listen to that latest bit of information and think, oh yeah, I should do that. Really understand why it's important. You know, in fact, there's a great social experiment done every single year regarding sleep. Know what it is? Daylight savings time. Each year in March, we lose 1 hour of sleep. And because of that 1 hour, scientists have studied that there is a 27% increase in heart attacks the next day. But that's not the only consequence of losing that 1 hour of sleep. There is also a paralleled rise in traffic accidents, suicides, and a multitude of other negative ripple effects that come from losing that just 1 hour of sleep once a year. So think about it. Think about how many times you're willing to sacrifice that 1 hour of sleep. In my own journey, I learned that, you know, how important sleep was. I can have everything else right, but if my sleep isn't solid, you know, there's the ripple effect. And I know through my research, helping people optimize their health, that metabolically, when we get less than that 7 hours of sleep, we function in a compromised state. In fact, for those of you who think that you can get by on less sleep, I know many of you watching are thinking, oh, I only need about 5 or 6 hours, 6 or 7. The likelihood of you being able to metabolically function properly under 7 hours of sleep is 1 in 12,000. You're more likely to survive a lightning strike than you are to function metabolically at less than 7 hours of sleep. And it has a ripple effect over absolutely everything that we do. Scientists also have found that there's a significant risk factor for compromised sleep and the connection with dementia, because our brain can't function properly when we are compromised in sleep. In fact, drowsy driving, so driving when you're sleepy, has killed and injured more people than any other type of like drunk driving or driving under the influence. Yet we put so much focus on driving under the influence, and we really don't focus on how important a good night's sleep is. We talk about, again, the foods that we need to eat and how we need to fuel our body, and you know that I'm very passionate about that, but that good night's sleep is so important. So what are some of the other things that we need to do? To get a good night's sleep, we need to reduce our addiction to technology. You know, these things have been in our life for maybe 10 years, and they've actually studied how much they impact our sleep cycle. Our circadian rhythm kind of follows the sunrise and sunset, and our bodies are in those natural biorhythms. But when we take in too much light, you know, think about our ancestors. They didn't have things like a light bulb, or they didn't have the technology that we have. And because of those things, we've actually interrupted that natural biorhythm of waking and sleep cycle. In fact, 98% of our DNA is impacted by our circadian rhythm. So think about that. If we are doing things that are disrupting our sleep on a consistent basis, we're actually impairing our DNA from its natural healthy expression. So getting that good night's sleep is really important. So we need to minimize that intense light that we see, especially those few hours before we go to bed. We need to set a bedtime alarm clock instead of just that morning alarm clock. In fact, you're actually, if you start prioritizing your sleep, and I get that that's challenging in our busy lives, but if you look at how important being healthy is and the things that you really are passionate about in your life, some of those things that we tend to make important, like watching another TV show or binge watching Netflix, you know, those are the things that are actually costing us our quality of life. So when we can prioritize when we go to sleep, we can actually increase our metabolic function, we can increase our happiness, we can increase our or improve our body composition, and that ripple effect through our life can be very profound. So set a bedtime. Decide if you're really going to get that 7 hours of good solid sleep, then you probably need to be in bed 7.5 hours at least before you wake up in the morning. And be really, really consistent with that to get the most benefit. Remember, that's a free health guarantee, getting that consistent night's sleep. Reduce that light, turn down those lights in the evening. Make sure you're not drinking caffeine past 2 o'clock in the afternoon. That really can impair your sleep, as we all know. Limit how much alcohol you drink about 3 hours before bed. We all know that some people will say, oh, a good glass of wine will help you relax and unwind from your day, but it may help you fall asleep, but it actually will disrupt your sleep pattern. And one last really important note about sleep. If you are someone who hits the snooze button regularly, you might want to stop. When you wake up, because that alarm is going off, and you hit the snooze button and you fall back to sleep, your brain is actually trying to go back into a REM cycle. So that takes it wants to go back to sleep for about 2 hours. But you're probably hitting the snooze just a couple of times, so maybe, 9 minutes, 20 minutes, however long you're hitting the snooze, but your brain doesn't get that full 2 hours that it's seeking. So you're actually waking up in a really foggy, kind of that fuzzy funk, as you want to call it. So stop hitting the snooze button in the morning, because it really will help you have or contribute to you having a much less energized and productive day. So I hope that you'll take these little tips and think about how important sleep really is to your health. I remember one of the most important things on my weight loss journey of losing over 100 pounds was remembering that I was not going to get to the end of my life and wish that I had watched one more hour of TV. So tell me, what that means to you, and how important is a good night's sleep to you. So when we come back, we'll be in the kitchen bringing in one of those great nutrient-dense, quick and easy meals. And we're still talking simplicity, so we're working a Chicken Fajita Bowl today in the kitchen, so don't go away. We'll be right back.
Here's my alarm to remind me to move throughout this workday. It's so easy to get caught up in everything you're doing. So set an alarm, and whether you walk down a hallway to move, or if you just sit and stand 7 to 10 times, that's going to help increase your productivity throughout the day.
It takes less than 1 minute to find out if you may have prediabetes. You can do it here. But you probably won't. You're busy. Kids, work, show coming back in 48 seconds. So let's do this now. Hold up one finger if you're a man. Women, 0. 3 more fingers if you're over 60, 2 over 50, 1 over 40. If you're not sure, keep in mind you're sitting on a couch right now, so 1 more finger if you're not very active. 1 finger if yes, 0 if no. 1 yes, 0 no. Next, find the body type that looks most like you and hold up that many fingers while I look around awkwardly. And that's it. If you're holding up 5 fingers or more, you probably have prediabetes. Sorry to be so blunt, but hey, you're busy. Just go to the site.
Welcome back. So as you know, I'm all about simplicity. Being healthy doesn't have to be complicated. And I've been a huge believer of that for the years that I've been working in this field. And, with my own simple habits to be the best version of me. So one of the things that's important is to not make it overcomplicated. When you decide to engage in healthier habits, you've got to keep it simple. Otherwise, we all know what it feels like to be overwhelmed. We face that every day in life. But when we can step back, take a deep breath, and find some simple habits or simple ways to be successful at or create success at being healthy, it's not about perfection. It's just about cultivating some simple practices and practicing those consistently. So One of the things is to keep your meal prep as simple as possible. And often when I meet with clients, I will have them just kind of map out what they want to eat. You know, we kind of eat the same things over and over. So put your meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, what you'd like to create for your week, you know, what kind of foods that you'd like to eat. And then from that, you create a shopping list. And that's, I know it's hard to see, and we can put them up on our Facebook page so you can actually just print these out. But this shopping list can actually help you just organize in your proteins, your vegetables, your healthy fats, and that flavor, adding some spices to your meals. So that's a great way to start your strategy, because if you go to the grocery store and you just think you want to eat healthier, but you don't know where you want to start, you might get a little bit overwhelmed, and that can lead to trouble. So today we're going to be cooking a Chicken Fajita Bowl. And this is a very simple recipe. And one of the things that I like about this is, you know, we almost always have your simple proteins in the refrigerator, and then we can just add different vegetables, different seasonings, and change the entire taste of the meal by doing so. So here I have a pound and a half of chicken thighs, just already chopped up. I use the chicken thigh because it has more flavor and has a nice amount of fat there, so it'll help keep you satisfied. I'm actually going to saute this in grass-fed butter. So if you've watched the show before, you know that I'm a big advocate for organic, healthy foods. And this is actually about 3 ounces of butter in here. And it just adds a really nice flavor. So you could also use like an avocado oil or coconut oil. You want to be really careful with using olive oil when you're sauteing to not go over like a medium-high heat, because it can oxidize that fat really quickly. So the butter actually can withstand the higher heat, so we don't have that problem. And I'm having a little trouble with my stove getting hot enough here. So I'm going to let that simmer for a minute. So again, that's just 1.5 pounds of chicken thighs. I'm going to add some sea salt here. So pink Himalayan sea salt, again, something that I'm a big fan of. And here is my multicolored peppered corns that I'm going to add in there as well. I'm a huge advocate of low carb, high fat, moderate protein type eating. And it is metabolically just something that helps reduce inflammation, can really help even reverse some chronic disease. So making sure that we're taking those carbohydrates out. You know, we talk a lot about sugar here on Healthy U and the consequences of eating it. And so when we switch to a low carb type meal or type diet, you want to make sure that you're getting some good minerals. So pink Himalayan sea salt is something that I actually encourage for you to use with your foods. You know, we hear a lot about we want to reduce sodium in our diets, but actually taking your sodium too low can be very problematic for your system. So a good sea salt, make sure you're using it on each meal to keep your electrolytes and your body in balance throughout your day. Otherwise, you might feel a little bit tired and sluggish. Let me just give those a good stir. So while those are cooking, we're going to make the base for the Chicken Fajita Bowl. So we're obviously taking the shell out, which is the higher carb part. So this is just organic romaine lettuce, and I'm just going to give it a good quick chop and get our bowls ready. Doesn't have to be fancy, to give us a good base for our bowls. Put that nice in there. So we want dark leafy greens always to get those micronutrients that are in there. Iceberg lettuce is great for the crunch. Doesn't have a lot of nutritional value to it. I'm also going to chop up, while I have my knife out, some cilantro. So you can use fresh cilantro. You can just rip off the leaves if you wanted. But fresh herbs actually have, I'm just going to give these a rough cut, but fresh herbs actually have a lot of nutrients in there, chlorophyll and nutrients that we don't often think about, but they're very important. So quick chop there. And I will throw a little bit in the bowls to give a base flavor. but then I'll also put some on top. So I'm gonna set those aside. So I already pre-chopped our onion, so this is just 1 onion and 1 pepper. Now the recipe actually called for green pepper. I don't like green pepper, and I also like the color of our yellow peppers, red peppers, orange peppers, and they actually contain more vitamin C. So, you know, it's a good thing to add some color to your meals and add some extra nutrients. So let me give these a stir. We need a kitchen makeover here. Okay, so our chicken is still, probably cook this for probably about 10 minutes. And you know, since we're tight on time, I'm gonna go ahead and throw this together. So all you would do is heat up your chicken, get it nice and cooked through, and add your peppers and a whole onion, nice and sliced up there. And then I made some homemade Texan taco seasoning, fajita seasoning. I'm also a big fan of making my seasoning blends because you never know what's in those store-bought blends that we buy in the packets for tacos or fajitas. And this is just a simple, you know, garlic, onion powder, I can't think, and cumin and things like that that you can put together. You can Google and find a very simple recipe, and we'll also post it. But I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit of this, and then that way you can add flavor in the way that you'd like, and toss that together. So you let this simmer together for about probably another 5 to 7 minutes and get those all nice and tender and cooked in there. Simple cooking. 3 ingredients, well 4 if you count the butter, and then a little bit of seasoning. And then for the taco bowl or the fajita bowl, what we're gonna do is once that's finished cooking, I'm gonna put that on top of the bed of lettuce, and then I would add some cherry tomatoes chopped up, my favorite addition. Squeeze a little bit of lime juice on there. I'm actually going to squeeze some into here as well. Add a nice little flavor to that. And I can't put the chicken in there yet, it's not quite ready, but what we would do is just throw a portion of the chicken, peppers, and onions on top of this bowl, add some cilantro, dice up an avocado, and throw it all together. You could even use a little bit of sour cream, and you've got a really delicious low-carb meal that will last, because when we bring those carbohydrates down and add some really good healthy fats like the avocado, maybe even a little bit of sour cream, even some cheese. If you want to use some cheese, I'm not a huge fan of dairy, but we can grate some cheese on there and put some cheese on and make it a really delicious, tasty meal that you wouldn't even miss that high carbohydrate shell. So we're out of time. This time goes by way too quickly, but I hope that this will inspire you to do a little healthy cooking, and don't forget, get a good night's sleep. If you'd like more information about the recipe, check out our Facebook page or go to kathysalatino.com. Until next time, here's to creating a healthier you. Have a great day.
How many of you say you're going to do something and never do? Create some accountability in your goal setting. Put it down on paper or a board. Make it visible so you can see it every day. Whether you map out 1 week or 1 month, have a reward system built in so you are excited to achieve and accomplish what you've put down on paper.
Hey there, I'm Nicholas Miller. I'm a nursing major here at West Liberty University, and today I'm going to show you what it's like to be in this program. Let's head into my leadership and management class.
We know that there are people in a group that's not been formally appointed as a leader, but somehow emerge as someone that everyone goes to as a resource, everyone goes to as an organizer.
In general, I'd say the nursing program is vigorous, but still it's pretty manageable. It teaches you what you need to know in a good amount of time, and by the end of it, in my opinion, you feel like you're ready for being a nurse. Now we're going to head into my Nursing Synthesis 2 class.
You're working as a float nurse, being called to the ER to assist in caring for a patient that's on their way to the hospital after falling 40 feet from a window. Report was called and included that the patient is a 22-year-old male.
Class size is typically about like 20 people, and our classes are team taught, which means that, so since nursing has a lot of specialties, they have the people who are best equipped to teach those specialties come in and teach those specialties. And what's cool about our nursing program is that we've had a 100% pass rate on the NCLEX, which is the test at the end, for the past few years. And we've placed people from in all kinds of states from across the country. So today I'm going to be working in the skills lab we have here on campus. So all of our classes take place in Campbell Hall, which is a newer facility. In there we have a lot of the equipment that we would be using and is up to date and modern, like what we would be using in the clinical setting. So the learning takes place in like three really kind of different settings. The first one is lecture, which is where we just learn like a regular classroom. And then the second is sim, where we learn a lot of our skills before we go out to the clinical setting. And the clinical setting is kind of tying it all together and looking at stuff we learned in class and stuff we've learned in sim and putting it together in actually being a nurse. So in the skills lab and the sim lab, we learn a lot of the skills that we need to know before we go out into the field, like how to put in an NG tube or how to assess a patient. And in the sim lab, we look at, we go in and we get a case study, and then we kind of talk about what we would do in that situation. And then we go in and we have a mannequin that blinks and it has pulses and it behaves a lot like a human being, and we reenact that situation and see how we would react and how we should react it. So today I'm going to pick up my patient information before I go to clinical. Starting junior year, you have required clinicals, and currently I'm doing mine at Wheeling Hospital. And when you do that, you go in the night before and you get patient information. You just kind of learn about what patients you're going to be seeing the next day. I pass meds, I give injections, change wound dressings, we assess patients, we chart, we do pretty much what a nurse does. And you get more patience and responsibility as you advance through the program. So these clinicals prepare you for a job because you're doing pretty much what a nurse does. And then a lot of the time, like especially through your preceptorship, these can put you in contact with nurse managers and like on a unit that you might want to work, and these can lead to a job. I hope this gave you some more information on what the nursing program is like, and if you want more information, check us out online.
Kevin, you thinking about retirement?
Of course I've thought about it, but there's all this stuff in the way.
Oh, you're not kidding.
The house, the kids are going to college.
My new car.
Car? You bought a new car?
Oh, hey, you should meet my friend Avo. Avo's a retirement coach. He'll help get you started.
But what does Avo tell you to do?
You don't know? Focus on your future. Your goals can still be met.
But how?
Target your tomorrow. And use the Avo bet.
You sing?
Not really. A is for taking action. Start off with a plan.
You built these letters?
Yep. V is for variety. There's so many ways you can.
I follow you.
Come on. O's for optimize your savings.
Let Avo lead the way.
Visit aceyourretirement.org today.
Nice sign.
Thanks, I made it myself.
Cool.